Welcome to another edition of the Injury Prevention Academy, brought to you by DORN Companies. For over 20 years, DORN has been the nation's leading wellness-based pain management and injury prevention company. Through our customized ergonomic education, training, and tech solutions, DORN has helped nearly 120,000 employees over that time. With an annual ROI of nearly 600%, we have saved employers over $100 million in workers' comp and healthcare costs. I'll be your host, Cheryl Roy, and we will be diving into the various facets of all things safety in the working environment. Welcome to another edition of the Injury Prevention Academy. My name is Cheryl Roy with DORN Companies. Joining me today is Miss Sally Morse. She is the co-founder and product creator of Spectra Supply. This is a Canadian company manufacturing work gloves for both men and women. Being in the manufacturing space, she found the need for proper fitting PPE or personal protective equipment for women specifically. Sally is one of the proud founding members of Awesome Alliance of Women's Safety Apparel Manufacturers, and their mission to create awareness, provide access, and advocate for safety products and workwear designed for women so that they can be comfortable and safe. Welcome, Miss Sally.
Thank you very much for having me, Cheryl.
How you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I am well, thank you. So let's dive right in. Why PPE creation? What was the driving factor for you?
I always think as an entrepreneur, you have to have curiosity, and that's what set me off on this path. I was just kind of going through a life transition, and I wanted a little bit more control of my time and finances, and I've always been in the helping profession. So I kind of looked at another industry that maybe I could provide some help for. And out of curiosity, I was just sitting in an office with a friend who owns a pipeline company here. I'm just above Montana State in Calgary, Alberta. And he had a spreadsheet of all these consumables that he went through, and it's multiple millions of dollars on a few of these projects. And I just said, what do you go through the most with your consumables? And he's like, great question. Go ask my secretary down the hall. So I went over and spoke with her, and she literally wrote 10 SKU numbers on a piece of paper. So I looked up where they were buying their stuff. And to my surprise, 6 out of the 10 products were work gloves. And so I thought, okay, there's the demand. And I called up my brother, who's an entrepreneur and has his own company. And I said, I think we should start a glove company. And so that's how it started. And we just used that first company kind of as our guinea pig for bringing in men's gloves for industry. And a year and a half into it, I realized I don't have any women's gloves for offerings. There's women in the field. I'm a woman in business. I'm running this company now. Why don't I do a deeper dive and create gloves for women? And that's kind of where we are today and what I'm very excited about.
Oh, obviously, there's a big need there. So that's wonderful that you guys are doing this. So as co-founder of Awesome, which is a new nonprofit for you, again, we're creating awareness and access and advocacy for proper fitting personal or for PPE for women. Can you speak a little bit more to your new nonprofit and how it's doing?
Yeah, it's amazing because, I've been working on these women's gloves and just, there's other events and conferences, and I was getting to know some of the other manufacturers that were also doing something in this space. And not always, but I found that a lot of them were women that were filling that gap and that need either for themselves with their own frustration in the field, or they had a daughter, sister, where they would come and sew and pin their coveralls and PPE to make it fit properly. And so just, the last couple of years, I've just been connecting with these individuals that are kind of, in the same space that I am in the manufacturing space. And so last September, a couple of them reached out and said, you're stronger together and we want to build an alliance. And we're all really kind of on the small end of the manufacturer scale. And so what can we do to amplify our voice and really make change in this space? And so, Awesome was, I guess, created as an idea starting in about September. And we had our official launch in Denver just this past August. So within a year, we had launched, formed the nonprofit, and there's 11 founders. There's 8 in the United States and 3 from Canada. And there's a little bit of crossover for some of us, but we do everything from, fire resistant to safety vests to footwear to workwear, pants, gloves. Some of our members now, like there's even safety glasses for women. So it's going to build and build, and I'm really, really excited for it. But I love the alliance. I love working together and advocating and providing access to these products. And we really want to advocate and make some change in the industry. Maybe that's lobbying for different regulation, or talking to companies and changing some of their policies, even company to company. So that's kind of the mission, and that's how I got involved with Awesome.
So looking historically into the manufacturing industry, which was predominantly men, that's just kind of what it was. And obviously things have evolved since then. According to the U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. manufacturers are looking at, I think it's a 2.4 million worker shortage by 2028, which is a wonderful opportunity for women to keep on growing this industry for themselves. What do you think the apprehension has been previously that deterred women from getting into this male-dominated industry?
Yeah, and I love it. I don't know who coined the phrase, but male populated, maybe not male dominated.
Sorry, populated. Yes.
I love that. I love that phrase. Yeah, for all of the sectors, and it's interesting because in the world wars, in World War II, Rosie Riveter, that era, there was men went to war, and of course there were some nurses and other women that also were on the front lines and in war, but mostly men. And so the women at home had to get into the manufacturing space. And I think that's really where I think it changed, was in the 1940s, during that time. And women were in the factories and in manufacturing and things like that. And then I think there was just a shift in culture, maybe in those 50s and 60s after the war, where more women were in the home and taking on those types of roles. So I think I always go back to the 40s of women have always been able to do it. And I guess it just depends on the times and industry. But there are more women, not only just in manufacturing, but a whole bunch of industries where in the workforce where they would need workwear. So I know in Canada, it's kind of like 5% in the construction trades as our national average. But it's increasing all the time. I already believe it's already up a couple of percent since the last statistics. And then the province that I'm in, there's a lot of industry here. So we're even higher than that. We're probably around the 7 or 8% of women in construction and trades. And it's growing. There's more and more programs and exposure. There's great programs up here going on, just exposing young girls to trades, like try a trade and just looking at the possibilities of this as a career. And there's really good green technology that's happening. It's not, old grandpa's dirty technology, oil and gas anymore either. So,
right.
With advances in technology and greener solutions, like you still need all of those positions to run those types of projects. So I think more and more women will be entering. And right now, I think it's a very good time to get in with this message that if you only have one woman on your workforce, you need to make sure they're safe and properly fit them.
Well, I want to piggyback off what you said, because not just manufacturing, construction and industrial, all of that, it's evolved over time, obviously. It's not that dirty, dangerous, dull profession that it used to be. It's increasingly safe, clean, diverse. I mean, AI and tech is booming everywhere right now. So obviously having gender-specific PPE and protective wear is where everything should be going. So do you think women are seeing this as an opportunity?
Yes, I think it is an opportunity. I think it's a great opportunity. And I think the statistics are showing that for sure. I think that as more women enter, I think companies also will understand the importance of just diversifying their workforce, having different mindsets of how to solve a problem and the strength that that brings to a team. So again, it's not only just attracting women for these types of roles, I think it's also retention and, providing a safe environment, a healthy culture, and making them feel like they belong. They're going to stay and they're going to be loyal to that company. So you're not going to have to rehire or lose a potential really valuable person in your workforce.
Right.
I think, again, coming back to safety and what I do, the message that I give to companies is, providing that care to that female worker on your workforce is sending that message that you value them. It's not special treatment. Everyone deserves to be safe, and they will remember that. And we're talking about psychological safety as well, that, when you feel safe, that your glove isn't going to go flying off your hand or going to get caught, or your safety vest will get caught in some moving machinery. When you feel safe and you feel better, you perform better. So companies need to look at that as well.
Absolutely. I think even as you said, when people were doing their own alterations to men's wear, now you're falling kind of victim to, did you do the alteration right? To make sure nothing falls down or catches, like you said. So,
and then maybe you're changing the safety standard with that item as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? There's certain obviously standards and codes to follow. So it's not really even safe to do that. I don't know what's the worst of the two, but it should just properly fit, and then it will solve all problems.
So what do you think the biggest advancements in women's PPE has been? I feel like when you go to the big box stores, you tend to see, things are smaller in pink in order to basically check that female box.
Yeah, the shrink in pink really is annoying. And that's fine if there's, bright colors and things like that. There's some women that I know that rock the pink and they love it, and that's great. I don't use pink for colors. I like strong femininity. So I have the red and white polka dot kind of as my signature on the women's gloves that I use. And that's an homage to Rosie Riveter. But what I love about Awesome is there's a vetting process. So all of us founders, any members, so anyone, that is listening today, manufactures PPE or workwear for women, we use ergonomics, we use research, we have sent our products out into the field for feedback from females to any alterations, upgrades, and things like that. So, these are properly vetted companies that are doing it properly. And we're doing our own study as well. Awesome has collaborated with the Safety Rack to do a survey every 2 years to track the progress of, are we getting better at this? And getting direct feedback from the women saying, what are your pain points? Where's the gap still? What can we do to help? And so every 2 years, we're going to do this survey, and it's a global survey. Obviously, this is a world issue. It's not just here in North America. Sure. So for the My Body, My PPE survey that was conducted last April, it was United Kingdom, Australia, Canada, US were the main countries, and a few other ones. But every 2 years, we'll look at the data and see what we can do to create change in that space and do it properly and do it right. One of the best studies I ever saw was actually from the United States government. So it was a military study, and they had 6,000 participants. So over 3,000 were women, and they pretty much measured every piece of their body. And so that data was really, really helpful for sizing and for looking at size ranges as well of an average kind of build. And framework for women. So I thought that was amazing. That was a very good study that I personally used. And then there's a lot of hand studies as well that I used for going over the data for biometrics and for my designs as well. But I think it needs to be done properly. Going back to your shrink in pink, that just It's not going to cut it anymore.
Right.
I think people will find out very quickly that this was not made properly. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, in your experience, what are some of the challenges upper management may face when they're trying to add in gender-specific PPE, and like how are they able to overcome those obstacles?
So for my experience, the first one is awareness. So if it is a purchaser or someone in safety or a project manager, whoever is in charge of ordering products, then it's the awareness point, I guess, of just making sure they're aware that there are women's products out there for their workforce. So that the first one would be awareness and just making sure that they know about all of the options. Second one is, if they're dealing with a bigger distributor or supplier and they don't offer it, then they need to speak up and say, we need to bring in more women's products. What do you have? And make them go search for these products to carry. And speak up and not just say like, okay, well, you don't have a women's coverall, fine, I'll take a small men's or whatever it is.
Right.
So ask whoever's supplying you the products, ask for better options. So after the awareness and asking, I guess some of them are maybe other people on their team might think it's special treatment that these women are getting certain products. And again, I was saying it's not special treatment. It's a universal need to be safe. And I think that it's not special treatment for a woman to speak up. And not only is it the pushback from the company, but I'm encouraging and empowering every woman who is in that situation where they're giving men's PPE or workwear to speak up for themselves and their own awareness now that there are products to keep them safe. First and foremost. So it's not special treatment. Speak up, be aware there's a lot of products out there now. And the third one is price. Because women aren't a large portion of the workforce in certain industries, that they're not going to be made in larger quantities, that right. Because of their design and research, the R&D process, and it's kind of early years of getting these products to market, they may be slightly more expensive, not always. Some will be the same price, but again, if it's a few dollars more per garment to bring in a women's product, if something happens to that woman on site for an injury or worse, that few dollars really doesn't make a difference at the end of the day.
It's a drop in the bucket. DORN talks all the time about, especially with budget season coming, companies can't afford not to have some sort of ergonomic program or proper PPE that addresses everybody as a whole. Being proactive versus reactive, obviously, is the way to go, because what a workman's comp case is going to cost you, which is, tens of thousands, depending on what goes on, a few bucks more on a glove, a shoe, an overall, what have you. It's a mistake. You can't afford not to do these things. So,
and that's what I love about DORN, right? It's all about prevention.
Absolutely.
Right? It's prevention. It's not after the fact of looking at an injury. It's like, how can we prevent it from happening in the first place? So, I love that. This is all prevention. All the safety stuff. It's all prevention. The products that we make, all of the awesome products, what you do at DORN, it's all prevention. And I think that's where companies really need to invest in, not after the fact, but what could they have done to prevent injury, or, like you said, a claim, a lawsuit, loss of work time or downtime.
Time loss. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and just the wear and tear of the body and like, I know you do a lot with the ergonomics as well, and fatigue. So, I think there's a lot to do with, or a lot to say with prevention in all aspects.
So I feel like prevention in general across the board, if anything good can come from COVID, is what happened during the pandemic. People were really fast to, how do we fix, how do we prevent? Everyone has a mask, and it was reactive, but planning ahead as the years have gone on and now we're living with COVID in our everyday lives. How has the pandemic springboarded better fitting PPE for our workers? I've seen many do-it-yourself type stuff on the floor where you'll see a lack of proper fitting gear. There was a couple gentlemen that I saw that were using paper clips to extend their mask to be wider on their, across the back of their head, which, as we said, could suddenly compromise the efficacy of what that specific piece of material is supposed to be doing for you or preventing entering your system. How do you see how do you see how the pandemic springboarded a lot of this, or do you see that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't really thought about it. I thought more of COVID and how it affected me more with like shipping, all the delays of that. But I think again, it goes back to safety and prevention and proper fit. And you're right with the masks. Like if you start changing things and it's not going to fit properly, and then there's no point in doing it. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great question. For how COVID has affected this, other than a lot of people were working from home, and a lot of people, maybe had time to stop and think about what they want to do with their lives. I've seen a lot of people, entrepreneurs and businesses, thrive out of COVID, and because they had that time to kind of stop and think, like, what do I want to do with my life? And you
had to get creative
and be creative, right? You're at home. So, a lot of us were at home during that time. So yeah, no, I don't know. That's a really good question. I don't know if it helped or hindered, to be honest. I'd love to see the statistics coming back on that, after the fact. What do you think?
I think it springboarded a lot of better ergonomic awareness. Just so many companies went under, and then so many companies closed down, and the loss of revenue and everything across the board. I mean, there was always the question of, okay, COVID came and went, like, what's our next thing? I mean, SARS was an issue at one point in time, which caused a lot of scare. I think you have to think about what's coming down the pipeline potentially next, and then be better prepared so that you can figure out how to have workers, whether it's a smaller, like, skeleton type crew, or you're integrating people differently, or it's creating the 6-foot space that you had to have there. I think you're doing yourself a gigantic disservice by not having a plan. I mean, back in the day when I was growing up, we had, fire drills and tornado drills and that kind of a thing. And unfortunately, our environments turned into, we're having, lockdown drills on top of fire and tornado. So I think just being prepared the best that you can, you have to be. I mean, you learn from history to keep on going into the future. So again, pandemic, not a great time, but what did we learn from it? So I think this is just a natural course of how you have to keep moving forward. So
yeah, no, I love that. You're so right. I think being prepared, for sure. I think that's very key. That's what came out of it. Like you said, all the spacing and all the tape that was used on the floors, all the plexiglass, and yeah, all that, having a plan to execute quickly. Because imagine if that was Ebola.
Right.
Right. We were lucky that, as dangerous as it was going around, it definitely could always be worse. So, yeah, as part of your safety program is like plan for the worst. And
hope for the best.
Have a plan, like you said, in order, whatever the next thing will be. The electrical grid going down, or, not to
so we can go on about this.
Like I just watched a podcast about, what are the 7 things that are going to take out humanity. So, not to live in fear, but you can live a little more peacefully when you are prepared and doing the right thing.
Then we'll talk about the zombie apocalypse, and that goes down its own trail altogether. So we recently met in person at the ASSP conference in Denver, and there was a big fashion show there driven specifically to women's PPE and safety wear. How was the experience for you and your co-vendors that you had there?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Being from Canada, actually, that was my first American safety conference.
Oh, great.
I was really impressed. So flew into Denver just for the 3 days there for the conference. The workwear show was just for 2 days out of the 3, like the Thursday and Friday. And it was great. It was put on by WISE, Women in Safety Excellence. We had standing room only. if that doesn't show you the need and
That's
the
great.
interest for women's PPE and workwear. Yeah, I don't know how many, I think there's probably 50 to 75 chairs.
Oh, for the seated portion, right,
In the
right.
seated portion, but it was standing room all behind them and around. So it was fantastic and lovely to see. And then it was really great. Some of us and the awesome members that were there, we were all able to set up just a little table behind, and that was really valuable just to have women try on some of the products. For me, it's easy. They just try on gloves in front of me.
Sure.
A little bit harder with garments, but getting that direct feedback was great, and meeting other people in industry, and it was a great experience. And I'll definitely be going to more conferences in the US for sure.
That was my next question.
Yeah. Either just as Spectra, but I hope awesome as we grow and raise more money and do more awesome things, we can be there as awesome as the nonprofit at all of these safety conferences in the future.
Well, I certainly hope so.
I think we'll do the ASSP every year in some capacity.
Okay.
And you were there. Thank you so much for coming to our official launch event. We thought we'd have about 175 people. Thankfully, to the sponsors that we had, we were able to rent a restaurant for the night and provide some small plates and a free drink. We had 376 people attend.
It was crowded. So all of you who go to ASSP next year, this event is worth going to. It was so fun. It was so fun. I met some great people. Obviously, Sally was one of them, but just in general, the whole feel and vibe of your networking event was great. It really was. And so needed.
Yeah, we did have a little bit of feedback, but it was a little bit loud. But when you have 376, mostly women, there was a lot of men there too, which is awesome. All the allies and support across the board was amazing. Yeah, it was super fun. The event kind of has been going on for a few years. So Kelly Franco came up with the idea of doing what is it? Whiskey and Women's PPE event.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And her story is really cute because she went to an event. She does FR underclothing. And
I met her. Yes.
Yeah, Kelly. And so she had just some girls come, or people come to like her hotel room, and they just had a drink, and that was kind of the first little thing. And then the next year after that, they rented a portion of a restaurant and had more people come. And then Awesome was officially formed. And so this was kind of like the third get together of, talking about women's PPE. So I think this is going to keep growing and growing and growing. So in Orlando next year for ASSP, we'll have another whiskey and women's PPE event. And hopefully we'll have more than 376. So we'll just keep growing. And I'm glad you had a good time. It looked like people were really enjoying themselves.
It was fun.
Like you said, great for networking and learning more about women's PPE and just having those great discussions.
So obviously awareness for what you do and represent is huge for you. So as a Canadian company, how does the acceptance of female PPE compare from Canada to the US?
It's a good question. I think the answer is it changes up here, province to province. And I think I would assume down there, it changes state to state. There's probably some states that are doing a better job than others. And so it's like, what can we learn from each other? Who's doing it the best? So I can only speak for my province. I think there is very positive change and support in Ontario, which is the largest population in our country. They have some amazing programs and changes for supporting women in industry and specifically in construction. So I'm looking to them to do the same here in my province, and what I can do, what can I do locally in my town? So, I do safety talks. I go to training programs for women to get in the trades. I do safety talks head to toe to educate them individually. So when they do get hired and on site, they can ask for the proper products. We have a Jill of all trades event here, which is 13-year-old girls that come for one full day at one of our largest or our larger city. It's called SATE Technical Training Schools. And they get exposed to, I think, four trades they get to pick. So they'll do like roofing or bricklaying or electrical or welding kind of for that day and just expose them. We have Honor the Work, which are kits that go into kindergarten to grade 6. And it talks about STEAM, the STEM kits.
Right.
And so it's getting these kids used to building and being creative, using their hands. And so again, that's introducing them to careers in the trades at an earlier age. I'm piloting a project right now. It just got the green light yesterday, so I can talk about it. But it's called Adopt a Shop. And that's for middle school and high schools. And that's for getting industry connected to shop class teachers, because the funding has gone away and machinery is broken. And I really want to have industry come in and talk about their career path, talk about what it's a day in the life is for them, get some women in industry into the classrooms. Sometimes you have to see it to be it, that young girls don't even know that, oh, I could be in this profession or this industry. So, I'm doing what I can in my city. Those are all things happening here. And some of them are happening across Canada. And so I would love to learn more about, what you're doing in the United States. I know there's a lot of great programs and a lot of people that are heading those types of things. But I think the more we can do is, just exposing younger individuals to the different career paths so they can make an informed choice later in life, support those decisions through funding and connecting through industry and mentorship. And that's what I can do to support industry and get more women in industry. It pays so well. I know there's a nonprofit, quickly I'll speak on Women Building Futures here, where, be a single mom working at Subway, hardly making ends meet.
Right.
They go into the Women Building Futures program, which is supported and funded through our government. They get trained in a trade and they go back full time and thriving, and best decision of their life. Not only, they're making ends meet, but extra money in the bank and a feeling of security for them and their kids.
And pride, I would imagine. Just
you're
an example for your children. That's awesome. So it's incredible that you brought that up. I remember, back in the day when I was in school and there was a shop class kind of a thing, it was probably the epitome of every stereotype that's out there in all men, boys, what have you. So I wish I had this kind of a thing growing up. My father was in construction, so all of us growing up learned power tools and how to get around in the garage. And it was, man, I wish I had more of that. That's awesome that you guys are doing that. That's very, very cool.
My dad he's retired now, but he was a master electrician. Okay. And so I worked at a gas plant as a summer student from age 15 to 18. I ran the Bobcat and did other things at this gas plant that my dad worked at as a summer student. So it's kind of exposed to it. But even back then, as a young teenager, I didn't really know any different. But the coveralls were like, I was drowning in them, and the gloves were way too big, and it was a mess. But I never had anyone come to my school. I never had any.
Oh no.
Woman come into my classroom and talk about her career path in the trades or like shop class. I remember having one shop class. I think I made a leather bookmark and I know some type of wood object. I don't even remember now, but most of the girls were encouraged to go into home ec and do the cooking.
I made a shelf.
Did you make a shelf?
It's in my garage. I still have it. Yes.
Well, it's amazing because I have a 15-year-old and she's in high school and she took shop class last year, and she made some amazing products like resin and live wood edge little tray and like really great products. She did amazing. So I'm happy to see that it's a little bit better than what I did in shop class back in the day.
Absolutely. You just always hope for the better for our younger generations.
Yeah.
So Dorn works with about 20,000 people each year, ensuring they're utilizing safe practices. So for both our team and your listeners, or other listeners in general, what should we be looking for to understand if inappropriate PPE happens to be in a place where you need to find something better? How do people approach their management or their senior advisors for things that could be fitting better, whether you're men, women, what have you?
Yeah, and we've been touching primarily on women, but I say you need to have an inclusive range of products for your workers. So again, it's the education of the people who are in charge of purchasing or whoever's ordering these products. And hopefully, them listening to this or having access to information. I encourage everyone go to awesome.org for as a resource for them to look at all of the products that are out there on the market and all the manufacturers that are making them. So awesome.org would be a great resource to go to. And as an individual worker, I would say, be empowered to speak up. This is potentially could be a life or death or a long-term injury or breakdown of your body, whatever that looks like, that you could be preventing. So I would say speak up. And I've had this question before of okay, if you're a person on site and things aren't fitting properly, then you go to whoever is in charge of ordering or your safety person, and give them the time to correct it for you once you've brought up the concern. And if they haven't, then I would go to HR and bring it up to HR that this is an issue that you've tried to solve it at a certain level and there's been no change, and you insist on having a safe work environment and products. And if that doesn't work, I would say maybe that company isn't aligned with your values and maybe you need to go work somewhere else.
There you have it. And it's not just your personal safety. If you've got ill-fitting gear and you're working with a cohort doing some sort of team workplace scenario, you could be jeopardizing the person next to you too. So it's really, again, the all-encompassing thing where everything should fit well.
Yeah. It could be a ripple effect.
Exactly. So I'm going to ask you last, Miss Sally, if you could make one prediction coming up over the next decade or so, how do you envision the evolution of safety gear in the workplace?
Wouldn't it be amazing that there was all products for everyone, access all the time?
All the time.
That'd be my wish. So in 10 years, realistically, I hope that the big box stores have a better range of products. I find now when I do go into the bigger box stores here in Canada, they're either very picked over or it's just very, very limited in range. And so I think they need to get with the program that more women are going into industry, and that's a large market that they're just not even looking at. And I think there will be an increase of online sales as well in 10 years. With women and shopping a lot easier online. I think that will be my prediction is there'll be just a lot more online sales as well, and just direct to consumer. If the companies aren't doing it, then hopefully those women will find the products and just buy directly, and hopefully give the bill or whatever to their company to compensate them for. That'd be, I guess, another prediction of just an increase of online. I don't know. I think technology, like you said, is advancing as well. So I know for foot technology, you can go in and have your foot measured or look at compression points and then get the right insole and boot. And I would love to do something like that for gloves. So it would just be like a scan of your hand or something like that. And then it matches you to the perfect fit, something like that.
They're doing that for jeans these days. There's no reason why they're not doing it for gloves. Yeah. So I get it. So you did give us the website for Awesome. How can our listeners reach you? Do you have an Instagram or a website that you want to throw out there for us?
I'm on LinkedIn. So just Sally Morse. I'm on LinkedIn there. So it's great to connect. I'm always happy to connect and meet new people that way. Spectra Supply, so spectrasupply.com. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. We have a Facebook page as well. But yeah, you can find me. I think it's Spectra_supply on Instagram. But LinkedIn is the best place to reach me, and Spectra Supply is on there to follow as well.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me today, and look forward to seeing you and everybody more at these conferences and watch women's PPE become a bigger and better thing. So
yeah, that's great. I hope to see you at another conference soon. Thank you.
All right. Sounds good, Sally.
Bye-bye.